Loneliness can be a very debilitating feeling, and I call it a feeling because obviously it has very little to do with the facts. And you probably have experienced this because you are feeling lonely no matter how many people are around you. You could be on your own or you could be surrounded by hundreds of people and you are still feeling lonely. Actually, in the second situation, you might be feeling more of that separation because you're watching people and that mirrors to you how you're disconnected from others. I'm going to dive right in what I believe and what I know loneliness is and how you can start feeling better. First of all, loneliness is a disconnection primarily from yourself and from the source energy that runs through you. Before you switch this video off, it will start making sense no matter how spiritual or non-spiritual you are. And you will see how practical this information is and how you can use it in your life to start feeling better. I speak very frequently how our relationship with others and the relationship with self and the relationship with cosmos, with creator, with God, with the universe, with source energy is basically mirroring one another. If we were taught to be disconnected from ourselves in childhood, which is typically a reason for the state of loneliness, this is what creates a sort of separation from source energy, because that's an internal split, and that will mirror in our relationship with others. So we are primarily focused, as we are feeling lonely, on how we relate to other people. But this is the really wrong way to start. You can't connect well to others. You can't connect healthily and fully and richly with others unless you have developed a relationship to yourself. People who experience loneliness have typically something in common. And this is the fact that in childhood, they had to hollow themselves and become available and mirror other people. You had to make yourself available. You had to take care of someone's feelings to make them feel good about themselves by molding yourself into an image that is acceptable to others. When this happens, you kind of isolate yourself from your core self, from your authentic core self. And this is when the problems start. When you step away from your core self, from being authentic in order to relate to others, to find connection with others that you had to depend on, then you are constantly identifying yourself with that mask that you put on. And over childhood, which could be many years, and maybe then later teenagehood, where you've been identifying with those coping behaviors that you've developed in order to become socially accepted, they prolong that sort of separation from yourself. And you can only feel connected to others when you are feeling intimately connected, trusting, and authentic within yourself. You know, many people are used to seeking the external validation for this reason. We seek for others to give us the feeling of love. We seek for others to give us the feeling of reassurance. We seek for others to give us the feeling of belonging, where all these feelings actually are created from within. What we are trying to get from the outside, we can very easily get from within on our terms and by authentic connection to ourselves. And only by doing this, you will be so comfortable with yourself, you will be so aware and in touch with yourself that through that unforced relationship of comfort and ease, other people will be attracted to you. When you are at ease with yourself, people find it easy to speak with you. Because when you have a tense relationship with yourself, because you're constantly scanning and you are constantly focused outwardly, this is the wrong coping behavior, and this is detrimental over any stretch of time. But I'm not saying this to make you feel bad about yourself. I'm only saying this so that you are aware of what's happening. And to actually bring something that will make you feel immediately better is part of the suffering of a person dealing with loneliness, is judging the feeling of being alone. Whatever we judge and are biased against, whatever we think is wrong, when we have a sort of standard in our mind of how things should be, and we are not experiencing this, we feel worse about the situation. You know, a very common phrase that describes it is, whatever you resist, it persists. I'm saying this for you to understand how your judgment and resistance towards the feeling of being alone, because it's a distinction, being alone can be a completely healthy, supportive, nourishing way of being with yourself. But like I explained, when you've not developed a relationship with yourself, then you feel lonely. You feel like no one is with you because you are not with yourself. Now, obviously, you've been judging and being biased against staying on your own and feeling uncomfortable with this because you can't accept your presence on your own. You haven't reached a sort of agreement with yourself. You haven't reached a sort of communication with yourself, which maybe you can call it a sort of self-loving relationship or feeling of self-worthiness, which, you know, the lack of are usually attributed with the feeling lonely. So if you are constantly judging your sense of value, if you are constantly judging yourself, if you are constantly feeling like you're not enough, you are not at ease with yourself. One thing that really changed my life was finding myself having to break up a really long relationship. And I was really petrified by this because for the whole of my life, I was with someone. I was with some people, but I knew that was what I had to do. And I found myself completely alone. I was living in a place where I didn't know people, where my family was so far away. And I also realized that my family was actually the reason why I was that way, that why I was feeling alone. So they were not even people that I would want to turn to. And I found myself not having friends that I could rely on because everyone at this time somehow dropped off the planet of Earth or betrayed me. And I found myself in the place of being completely alone. It felt like I was completely separate, completely isolated from all the people. And that was really scary. But I spoke with someone, with a close relative of mine. That's the only person I could rely on. And she told me she experienced this as well in her life. And she told me how this point of finding herself feeling so alone was the best thing that happened to her, because from then on, she reclaimed a relationship with herself. So as much as it didn't help me immediately to feel in touch with myself, it helped me in the way that I started getting excited about this relationship with myself and stopped focusing so much about not having others. And this is what I hope for you as well. So from this point, it actually didn't take that long for me to start developing a very good relationship with myself that turned into a sense of self-worth, a sense of fullness that is lacking when you are feeling empty during the loneliness moments. And this is when I also start looking into my relationship with the source, with cosmos. I don't know what came over me, but this is my philosophical nature where I dig deep into every detail and I want to milk every pain, every crisis, every breakdown into a breakthrough. Because when I analyzed this situation, I discovered my old ways of relating felt always empty and unsupportive because I had the same relationship with the world. I was unsupportive to myself, therefore I felt unsupported by others, and that was because I was feeling unsupported by the world. But that was based on the wrong assumption. I had lost connection with myself. The support is constantly flowing. I was simply not allowing. I was simply trying to use the old coping mechanisms of trying to make myself in some sort of a pleasing and accommodating person without regard to what I needed. Therefore, I couldn't simply rely on being true to myself. I had to rely on doing, on acting, on performing, on giving, on helping. As much as I identified with this, I was growing the disconnect with myself. And when I decided that that was equal, my relationship with myself, my relationship with cosmos, my relationship with others was basically a mirror of one another, I decided I had to trust. Because coming to think about a healthy relationship with others, you have to first trust in order for the other person to show you that they are accepting you, right? First, you need to be vulnerable. You need to kind of surrender a little bit. And what I was doing, I was trying to control through my molding, through my coping, through my giving, through my helping. And that is not letting myself trust. And letting yourself trust something means letting in a possibility of connection, love, a relationship. This is what I was detached from. I was focused on those coping mechanisms, on those facade features of mine that were skills, good skills that I had developed for the whole of my life to serve others, and they would accept me for what I did to them, for them. So I decided, well, maybe I have to trust the world. I have to trust God. I have to trust cosmos. And back then I didn't have a very strong relationship with those things, but I thought that was the only chance. So how did that look like for me was that I started showing up as completely authentic self as much as I could. I would say things that in the past I had thought they would not be well received. And there was always a risk involved now in my new stage of experimenting that they would not be well received. But I was willing to take that risk and surrender to the world so that I could filter out people that were not matching my true self and separate these people from those who were only accepting me if I performed for them, if I was giving, if I was, acting to please them. So authenticity, the thing that we are so scared of when we feel lonely, is the cure for loneliness, because then you become also in connection with yourself. Also, another thing is constantly choosing from what is best for me. This is also part of authentic behavior. What feels like it's best for me? What is for my highest good? What feels like the most trusting thing to do? Well, you might be thinking, okay, if I'm trusting and I put myself out there and show my true face, people might reject me. And yes, that's a chance. it's 50-50. People might reject you or they might accept you. And this is actually a good thing, because you are not meant to live your life pleasing others. Because if that's the way you're used to live your life, or projecting some sort of facade, it doesn't have to be pleasing, but usually it's some sort of facade that you've put on, some sort of mask that you're playing in order to cover your true self. Could be perfectionism, could be hard work, it could be anything, it could be a status that you are now tired of doing because you just want people to accept the true you. And again, the trick is for you to accept yourself, your true self. And this is where all the inner work is necessary. I teach in my channel all the different ways you can use, such as shadow work, such as learning about yourself. You can use journaling, you can meditate, you can do any sort of things. You can start spending time with yourself, trying to be excited. And in the beginning, it might actually feel a bit awkward when you're not used to doing this. But trust me, it will get better and easier over time, so that wherever you will go, once you've connected with yourself, you will be fulfilled and you will be connected. There will be no time where you will not feel connected with someone, because you will have your best friend inside of you with you. This is the best thing that can happen to anyone that suffered from loneliness to experience. Like I started by saying, we seek externally for the connection we can easily find within ourselves. And when I say easily, I don't mean fast or overnight, or that it will be without trying to do different things and figuring out how you relate to yourself. I'm not saying it will be without some pain, but you can do it, and it is actually very uncomplicated. You just have to spend time with yourself and keep forgiving yourself, keep validating what you think, keep validating your emotions, keep validating your thoughts in front of yourself in the way that it's okay. It's okay. Just hold yourself in that deep embrace. You can even imagine someone, a loving figure, not necessarily from your environment, because that always comes with some set of questions, but you can imagine a sort of figure that would hold you in unconditional love when you feel some sort of sense of loneliness. And you will start noticing how you can actually exude these feelings from within, how you can reach them deep inside, because you've been disconnected from yourself for so long. It might be, a little bit of a process, it might take a little bit of time to get into that feeling. But we can't feel anything unless it's inside of us already. So even when people give you that short boost of feeling like you're worthy, feeling like you're connected with someone, this is the thing that you're seeking for. You couldn't actually feel those if these feelings weren't inside of you already. All they do, they just activate whatever is inside of you already. So this is actually a good place to know that you can reach these feelings from within. And when you keep choosing the best thing for you, the thing that you can trust more, the thing that feels like it's a loving choice, whether that's a choice of, what you do with others, if you decide to seek others out, or if you decide to spend some time alone, how you're going to spend that time alone to nourish your presence, to nourish your connection with yourself. When you take these choices, as opposed to choices coming from fear, coming from the sense of unworthiness, then you will get more evidence over time. You will prove it to yourself that you are not lonely. I speak about this in all my videos, about the choice of love versus the choice of fear. And you can watch some of my other videos that feel like they resonate with you. And I want to encourage you to build that up on a consistent level. Keep choosing yourself. I promise you that leads to that sense of fulfillment, that sense of feeling like you are valued from within, like you have a value. Then you will become more confident. It doesn't mean you will be extroverted if you're an introvert, but you will be feeling comfortable with yourself, and it will attract people that accept you for who you are. That was my path as well. Now I say things that I want to say, and I do things that I want to do. And I found people who accept me, and it's completely not weird for them when I act in what I used to think would be a bizarre way, what I would judge myself for even considering doing. But now I have a bunch of friends and people who completely respect how I am, and they completely respect and appreciate me for my energy, for me being me, because I'm most fun, I'm most relatable, I'm most comfortable, and that allows them to mirror these feelings. You see, we mirror each other's feelings, and when you are comfortable, other people will feel comfortable. You don't have to perform, you don't have to change yourself, you don't have to put on any mask, you don't have to please them. This is what we were taught, to act in order to be accepted. Now all you have to do is just be, and start by being with yourself. Start by being in meditation or in journaling. Explore your inner self. Try to find out as much as possible about that inner friend of yours, so that you become closer and closer and closer. That could be a really long journey, but it's worth its while. So I encourage you to experiment. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will share here a couple of videos that can help you deepen this relationship with yourself, and I hope to see you in one of them.